All right. In the last class, we saw this balls and bins, right? We were trying to understand this balls and bins paradigms and seeing how what are its applications in various problems like hashing and so on, which we haven't seen yet. But we were trying to analyze various scenarios where you have m balls being thrown into n bins and various questions related to the distribution of the balls in the bins, right? And towards the end of the lecture, we saw this sort of approximation, right? So we had this, we were looking at this following problem where you're looking at m balls in n bins, and we were asking this question of what is the probability that bin I has r balls, right? And so this calculation, this probability was nothing but m choose r, right? 1 over n to the r, 1 minus 1 over n to the um, m minus r, correct? We saw this probability, and then we said that for large enough values of right, so we said that this can be approximated as say e power minus m over n, uh, m over n to the r by r factorial for large enough values of m and n compared to r, right? And with this in mind, we said that this we can look at the distribution, what is known as the Poisson distribution, right? With this motivation, we're going to look at what is known as the Poisson distribution. And the idea is that we'll see that the distribution of balls into bins can be approximated by Poisson distribution, by a Poisson distribution. So therefore, the questions regarding how balls are distributed in the bins, right? Which ball, whether there is a bin with a lot of balls, what is there a bin with no balls, and so on. Such questions can be answered a little more easily if you assume that the number of balls in every bin is independently distributed according to Poisson distribution, right? It's not correct, right? Because we said that if you are going to throw m balls into n bins, then the number of balls in each bin, they are not independent, they are dependent variables. If I tell you the number of balls in the first bin, then you know that the number of balls in the remaining bins cannot be more than say m minus r if you have r balls in the first bin, right? But somehow we'll say that we'll define this Poisson distribution, and we'll say that we can assume that the balls are assigned to bins in a sort of independent way. Each bin gets the number of balls distributed according to a Poisson distribution, and we can somehow think of it as independent, and it can make the analysis easier in certain cases, right? And so um, with that in mind, let's define the Poisson distribution, right? Which is defined with respect to the uh, PMF, the probability mass function of the random variable. So we'll say that a random variable x uh, is distributed according to the Poisson distribution with parameter mu if its mass function is given as follows: for the probability that x will take a value j is e power minus mu power j divided by j factorial, right? So for every j, right, positive natural numbers, correct? So if you take a random variable whose PMF is defined this way, this we'll say this random variable is distributed according to the Poisson distribution. And we also verified that this PMF actually defines a distribution, right? So we verified this, right? That the summation of these values, right, for j greater than or equal to 0 was indeed equal to 1. Right? So this is indeed a distribution, correct? Um, so what we will do now is we'll look at the properties of the Poisson distribution, and then we will formally state the fact that you can approximate the distribution of balls and bins by a Poisson distribution. That's what we will do. So let's verify a few properties of the Poisson distribution. So the first thing is the mean of the Poisson distribution, right? So the expected value of a Poisson random variable. Right, the parameter mu actually captures the expectation, so we can actually calculate it, right? Expectation of x is summation j greater than or equal to 0, j times the probability that x is equal to j. If you write it down, this is j greater than or equal to 0, j times e power minus mu power j by j factorial, right? So this is nothing but summation j greater than or equal to 1 j times e power minus mu power j by j factorial. So this you can write as mu summation j greater than or equal to 1 e power minus mu power j minus 1 by j minus 1 factorial, right? So this, if you rewrite the sum, this is nothing but mu j greater than or equal to 0 e power minus mu power j divided by j factorial, which is nothing but the sum of the random variables, right? This is mu times summation probability that x is equal to j, where j is greater than or equal to 0, and this is equal to mu, right? So the parameter mu of the Poisson random variable is indeed the expectation, right? So for instance, in our case, in this in the balls and bins scenario, what we saw in balls and bins, the mu is actually going to be equal to m over n, right? And this is the expected number of balls in a bin, right? So if you actually were to throw balls into bin, m balls into n bins, then the expected value is the number of expected number of balls in a bin is m over n. And so it's like you have this Poisson random variable where whose expectation is mu, right? So that's a correspondence in this case, right? It's this expected number of balls in a bin, correct? Secondly, there are some other nice properties of Poisson random variable. So one of them is that right, the sum of Poisson random variables is a Poisson random variable. Sum of independent Poisson random variables. Yeah. Independent Poisson random variables is a Poisson random variable. So to verify, so you have let so say x and y are independent Poisson random variables. So just to verify, what we want to check is, so to say that this is also Poisson random variable, what we need to do is to compute the PMF of x plus y, right? What is the probability that x plus y is equal to j? This is the sum over all k, right? That probability that x is equal to j, x is equal to k, and y is equal to j minus k, correct? And since x and y are themselves Poisson random variables, this is right? This is nothing but summation k equal to 0 to j, and this quantity is e power uh, minus, say, mu1, right? So let x and b be independent Poisson random variables with parameters mu1 and mu2. Okay. So this is e raised to minus mu1 raised to k by k factorial, and this is e raised to minus mu2 raised to j minus k by j minus k factorial, right? So this can be written as e raised to minus mu1 plus mu2. So divided by, say, you take a j factorial, this is k equal to 0 to j factorial by k factorial times j minus k factorial times mu1 to the k times mu2 to the j minus k, right? So this is nothing but the binomial expansion of mu1 plus mu2 to the j, right? So this probability is e raised to minus mu1 plus mu2 times mu1 plus mu2 raised to j by j factorial, right? So the sum of two independent Poisson random variables with parameters mu1 and mu2 is a new Poisson random variable with parameters mu1 plus mu2. Right? It's a very nice property to have when when you're going to work with multiple Poisson random variables and you have sums coming in, then you're still it is still a Poisson random variable, right? So this is another nice property, right? Any questions so far? Okay. Okay. So just like binomial random variables, so we've seen Chernoff bounds, right? Chernoff-Hofding bounds tells you that gives you bounds on the tails of binomial distribution, right? You take a binomial distribution, it tells you what is the probability that the random variable is close to its expectation, or what is that it is unlikely to be far from its expectation, and so on. It gives you bound on the tails. The tail is basically the probability that a random variable is far from its expectation, and it gives you bounds on the tails, right? And just like the Chernoff bounds, which is for proved for binomial random variables, you have tail bounds for Poisson random variables as well. Right? And this is so it's like a Chernoff bound, but you're working with a Poisson random variable instead of a binomial random variable. And the proof is also going to be quite similar. We'll just briefly go over it, right, just to see how a similar looking proof like the Chernoff bound is going to be applicable here as well, right? So let me just state uh, give the statement of the theorem, right? So let x be a Poisson random variable with parameter mu, right? Then the following statements can be said. The first one is that if x, the number x is greater than mu, which is the mean, right? Then the probability that the random variable x takes a value greater than small x is bounded by e to the minus mu, e mu power x divided by x power x. Okay. And similarly, there is the tail bound on the other side, right? So this is telling you that if you have if the average is mu, what if the expected value is mu, and if x is a value greater than mu, then as you go further and further away from that expectation mu, then the random variable is less likely to take that value. And the way in which it reduces, the probability reduces, is like an exponential function, right? So it's a very strong tail bound, right? And in the case when x is less than mu, what you have is the probability that x is less than x. This is again bounded in a similar way. Correct? And there are different versions, so similar to uh, um, the Chernoff bound. So you have this bound where for delta greater than 0, the probability that x is greater than 1 plus delta times mu, right? What is the probability that it is a constant fraction? So it's mu plus delta mu away, right? This probability is at most e power delta by 1 plus delta raised to 1 plus delta the whole raised to mu, right? And similarly for 0 less than delta less than 1, the other side of the tail bond, probability that x is less than 1 minus delta of mu is again at most e power delta by 1 plus delta raised to 1 plus delta whole raised to mu, right? So these are the tail bounds. Uh, okay, right? So is the statement clear? So it's these statements look very much like the Chernoff bounds. In fact, these bounds here that you see comes up when you actually try to prove Chernoff bounds. These bounds based on some of the approximations. This is something that comes up even when you try to prove the Chernoff bound for binomial random variables. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's just briefly go over how so let's recall, right? I mean, we have seen how the proof for the Chernoff bounds go, and here too it's the same thing, right? The idea of the proof is the same. What you do is you try to look at the moment generating function. Right? You're going to look at the moment generating function, and so the idea you want to do is what is the probability that x is greater than x. This is same as the probability that e power tx is greater than e power t small x. And then the Markov inequality says that this is at most expectation of e power tx divided by e power small tx. Right? The same idea that the same starting point as the Chernoff bounds. Correct? And what we need to do is look at this quantity, right? The moment generating function. So in the case of a Poisson random variable, what is this quantity? Expectation of e power tx, right? So you want to do, this is nothing but summation over different j, right? E power tj into probability that x is equal to j. Correct? And what is this? So now you use the fact that this is a Poisson random variable. So this is summation j greater than or equal to 0 e power tj into e power minus mu power j divided by j factorial. Right? Correct? And what does this give you? This simplifies to the following quantity. So you see, so if you simplify this, it is you can just check it. It is basically you're going to get something like e raised to mu e raised to t minus 1. So this is what you get when you try to simplify this term here, right? So you will basically be able to take an e raised to mu t outside, and then there'll be a t times j minus 1 sitting in here, and then the simplification, then you basically simplify it to get the remaining, right? So yeah, correct. Okay, so this is the moment generating function. So this expectation of e power tx is this quantity here, and then you do the similar thing, right? So you just you try to x greater than x is at most e power mu e power t minus 1 by e power tx, right? And then what you do is you look at this term here and find t that minimizes that fraction. And so once you do that, that's basically you just do the basic calculus. You can do that, and what you will see is that t is going to be something like ln x by mu. Right? If you just take the first differential and equate to 0 and solve it, this is what you get, and this gives you the bound that you want. Right? The probability that x is greater than x. You substitute for ln x by mu and simplify it. This gives you the first bound that you have here, right? E raised to minus mu, right? E raised to minus mu, e mu power x divided by x power x. Okay, this is by substituting for t. Correct. And the other bounds, right? The probability, the other bounds that x is greater than 1 plus delta times mu basically is this one, this bound that you have e raised to delta by 1 plus delta raised to 1 plus delta, the whole raised to mu. This you obtain by substituting for x. Correct. So the proof is very similar, right? The idea of the proof is very similar. Right, so it's very similar to the Chernoff bound proof. A little more, again, the form that you have is something like this, which might not be very useful right now, but depending on the values of delta and so on, you substitute accordingly. Right? Any questions on this so far? Right, we have not done much regarding how it is going to be used in our balls and bin scenario, but we are just looking at the Poisson distribution. Any questions so far? Anything that is unclear? Right. And finally, what we will, what you actually can, what we will not prove this, but it is this is also something that can be shown. I suggest that you read this in the book because it's mostly some calculus and approximations rather than anything related to anything very conceptual, right? So, which is that the Poisson distribution is actually the limit of the binomial distribution. Right? So, what does that mean? So, let xn be a binomial random variable, right, with parameters n and p, okay, with the condition that where p is a function of n and the limit as n tends to infinity, n times p is a constant mu, where mu is a constant independent of n. Correct? So if this happens, then for any fixed k, right, the limit as n tends to infinity the probability that xn is equal to k is nothing but the Poisson, the probability correspond as though it is a Poisson random. It's e raised to minus mu, mu raised to k by k factorial. Right? At the limit, as n becomes larger and larger, the distribution of the binomial random variable is like a Poisson distribution. Right? So it's the limit of the binomial distribution. This is what we were expecting also. I think when we saw previously, when we looked at the number of balls in a bin, what is the probability that the ith bin has r balls? This is what we had. We said that when m and n are large enough compared to r, then you can approximate it this way. So this formally proves it. We will not see this proof. So this is theorem. Will not see a proof. This is 3M 5.5 of the book, the Mitzenmacher-Upfall book. Right? You can read it. The proof that is given there, but this is what we mean. So this is what it says is that the Poisson distribution is the limit of the binomial distribution. Right? So it basically formalizes that approximation that we were doing in that earlier calculation. Right? So it uses the fact that you need to have this property to be true, right? That is that the mean, the n times p, which is like the mean, is a constant as n becomes large, right? In the case of balls and bins scenario, what is the value? NP. When you have n balls and n bins, what is this value? Yeah, it's m over n. Exactly, it's m over n. So if you have n balls and n bins, it's like 1. Right? So for then so in the case when you have n balls and n bins, it's like 1, and then in the limit, this distribution is like the Poisson distribution, right? Okay. So any questions so far in whatever we have written right now? Any questions? Okay. So now let's formalize. So this is the fact that the binomial distribution is in the limit is the Poisson distribution. So now let's go back to the balls and bins scenario. Okay, and then let's try to say that studying balls and bins, the if you take the balls and bins paradigm and where you're tossing m balls into n bins, and you're looking at the distribution of the balls and the bins, then this distribution, the probability distribution, is well approximated by a Poisson distribution. Let's try to formalize this now, right? Let's formalize it, and then let's see how to use it to prove certain properties of the balls and bins case. Okay. So the first, we'll state it as a theorem, right? So before doing that, let's look at the following case. So you have two things, right? So the first, what you want to see is that you have m balls thrown into n bins, right? You have m balls thrown into n bins, and then you can look at this random variables x1m, x2m, and so on till xnm, where xim is the number of balls in bin I, right? And the crucial thing is that xim, these random variables, are not independent, right? This is the balls and bin scenario that we're looking at. Right? You want to, and you're interested in this, what you're interested in is this distribution, right? What is the probability that x1m is equal to some k1 and x2m is equal to k2 and so on till xnm is equal to kn, right? This probability is what we are interested in computing, right? How is this probability distribution? What is this? How is it distributed, right? This is one scenario. The second one, the Poisson case, is the following. What do we do? So you have n bins. Okay. For each bin I, choose choose k1 according to the Poisson distribution, say Py, with parameter mu. Okay. And put k1 balls in bin I. Right. So this is slightly different. So now what you do is you take a bin, you choose a random variable according to the Poisson distribution with some parameter mu, and then you put so many balls into that bin, right? So mu is going to be, say, m by n, say, correct? So this is slightly different scenario, right? So you don't. So the thing is that the number of balls that you actually put. So if you look at the Poisson case, then the number of balls that might be there, the total number of balls in all the bins might be greater than m, correct? Because what are you doing? You're taking each bin and then choosing a choosing a number according to the Poisson distribution, and whatever is that number, so many balls are put into that bin. You do this for each bin independently, right? And then you get some distribution, correct? So there are two distributions. So this is so yi is this random variable, right? So this random variable, I will call it as yi m, right? So you can ask the following thing: how are these random variables distributed? What is the probability that yim is equal to k1 and y1 m is equal to k1, y2 m is equal to k2, and so on till yn m is equal to k, right? So there are two different distributions. In one case, the distribution of balls into bins are dependent, because we are throwing each ball, we are throwing independently into a bin. In the second case, what we are doing is we are taking a bin, choosing a number according to the Poisson distribution, and putting so many balls into that bin, and doing it independently for every bin, right? And what we are going to show is that these two are connected. To analyze this case one, it is sufficient to analyze case two in certain scenarios, not every time, but sometimes it gives you good bounds to analyzing two instead of one. Is this clear? Is this what I've just described? Is it clear? The distinctions between case one and case two, the balls and bins case and the Poisson case. Any questions? Okay. All right. So with this in mind, let me just state what I mean to say that Poisson distribution can be the balls and bin scenario can be approximated by a Poisson distribution and so on. Right. So the first thing that we will show is the following. Right. The distribution y1m, y2m, and so on till ynm, conditioned on summation yi equal to k is the same as the distribution x1k, x2k, and so on till xnk, regardless of the value of m. Okay. So what it's saying is the following. Suppose you do this Poisson process where you take each bin and you choose a Poisson a number according to the Poisson distribution, put so many balls and so on. So now you have some distribution of balls into bins. Suppose I tell you that the number of balls, the sum of the number of balls in all the bins, suppose I tell you that it is k, right? Then you can look at the distribution of this balls and bins. What this theorem is telling you is that it is identical. It's as though you have actually thrown k balls into the n bins independently and uniformly at random. The two distributions are identical. If I tell you that I have this Poisson process where each bin is chosen and balls are put into that bin with parameter mu, right? And I tell you that the total number of balls is k, then the two distributions, then it's as though you are actually throwing k balls into the bins uniformly and independently at random, right? So that is what this is saying. So condition on the case that the number of balls is equal to k, then the Poisson process that you did is identical to the balls and bins process that you did. Right? Is the statement clear? Any questions on the statement of this theorem? Okay, so let's see a proof of this. Right. So let's first look at the case, right? So let's look at the case that so what do we want to prove? We want to prove that for every k1, k2, and so on till say kn, right? The probability that x1k is equal to k1 and x2k is equal to k2 and xnk is equal to kn. This probability is identical to the probability that y1m is equal to k1 and y2m is equal to k2 and so on till ynm is equal to kn, conditioned on the fact that summation ki is equal to k. Right? This is what is being stated as this theorem. Right? This is the statement. This is what you want to prove. Correct? So let's take this first probability. Right? What is the probability that x1k is equal to k1 and x2k is equal to k2 and so on till x and k is equal to kn, right? So this means that summation k is equal to k, right? So what is this probability? Can you compute this probability? What is this value? In how many ways can you throw k balls into n bins? Let's first see that, right? How many ways can you throw k balls into n bins? That will be the denominator, right? What is that value? Okay. So nck. So what is nck? For which is this is for the number of ways in which you can throw k balls into n bins. Is that what you're saying? And Shrikant's answer also is that I meant for total probability. How do you get that? Let's start with the first thing, right? How many ways can you throw k balls into n bins, right? So let's start with that. K power n. Is it k power n? The first ball has n choices. The second ball has n choices. Yeah, it's 1 n power k, right? So that is the denominator. So it's 1 divided by n power k. Now, Now the question is, how many ways is it possible that when you throw, the first bin has K1 balls, the second bin has K2 balls, and so on, right? So how do you do that? So the first bin, out of K balls, you choose K1 balls, right? And then you put that into the first bin. Then you have K minus K1 balls, out of which you choose K2 balls, and so on till finally where you have K minus K1 minus K2 till Kn minus 1. Choose Kn, correct? And when you simplify this, what you have is 1 divided by n power k. This is k factorial by k1 factorial times k minus k1 factorial. And this gets cancelled, right? K minus k1 factorial by k2 factorial times k minus k1 minus k2 factorial, and so on. So when you simplify this, what you have is basically k factorial divided by k1 factorial times k2 factorial times kn factorial times 1 over n to the k. Right? So that is the thing. So yes, Srikanth, you said this almost correct, except that you have missed that 1 over n power k. Right? So this is the probability that the distribution of balls in bins is has k1 in the first bin, k2 in the second bin, and kn in the second last bin. Right? So that is the first thing. So so what that is okay, and then what you need to prove is the second statement. Right? You need to prove that this right hand side is also equal to that value. And here we can use all the nice properties of a Poisson random variable, right? So we have Poisson random variables that are independent and all that, right? We can use all that facts here now, correct? Okay. So let's try to do that. So what do we want to show? You want to look at the probability that y1m is equal to k1 and so on till yn m is equal to kn, given that summation ki is equal to k, or summation yi m is equal to k, right? So this we can write it as the probability that y1m is equal to k1 and y2m is equal to k2 and ynm is equal to kn divided by the probability that summation yim is equal to k, right? Okay. And now you can use the fact that these yi's are independent Poisson random variables, right? Because what did you do? You are choosing a bin and choosing a number according to the Poisson distribution and putting so many balls in there. So this is the product of probability yim equal to ki divided by the sum of Poisson random variables is again a Poisson random variable. So this quantity is nothing but e power. So this is going from I equal to 1 to n, right? So if you take summation yi, this is a Poisson random variable with parameter what? What will be the parameter for this Poisson random variable? Summation yi with parameter m, right? Because each of them has a parameter m over n and there are n of them, so you're adding them up. So this is a Poisson random variable with parameter m. So this is nothing but e power minus m times m power k, right, divided by k factorial, correct? That is the denominator. And the numerator we can similarly write. So the numerator is product of I going from 1 to n e power uh, minus m over n times m over n to the ki divided by ki factorial times, you have a k factorial here, e raised to minus m, right? So this will give you something like, so this product, this is e power minus m. This is, you have an m power k here, right? And then you have k factorial, and denominator is also again product of ki factorial times e power minus m times m power k, right? And there is an n power k also that is coming from here, n power k because n power summation ki's, right? So this is the same thing, right? This is k factorial by k1 factorial times k2 factorial kn factorial times 1 over n power k, right? So this is the same as what we saw before for the case x1x, x1m, x1k, x2k, xnk, right? So once again, so what does it tell you? It tells you that you do the following process where you, instead of throwing balls into bins, you take a bin, you choose a number according to the Poisson distribution, put so many balls into that bin, right? You do this independently for n bins. Now, given conditioned on the fact that the number of balls in the total number of balls in the bins is k, this process is equivalent to doing the following: you take k balls and throw one by one into a bin uniformly at random. Right? The distribution that you get is identical in both the cases. That's what we have proved. Any questions on this so far? Is this clear as a statement and the proof? The proof is not, it's just calculation, but is the statement clear?
Sir,
Yeah,
in the step where you take the RHS and you
yeah,
write like A given B is A
yeah,
intersection B by product. Like
yeah.
what happened to that intersection with that summation yi equal to k?
So you can, this is the intersection is basically this term into the denominator, isn't it? The
Yes,
probability that,
sir.
yeah, so I'm just taking it down here. That's all there is. Sorry, I didn't get you.
Like the left hand side is written as A given B.
Yeah.
It should be probability of A intersection B divided by probability of B.
Uh, yeah. So that is, if all of this happens, then the summation yi is equal to k, right? So that's the k is basically summation ki's.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. K is basically summation ki's. If all this happens, then that's yeah. 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 Anything else? Sorry. Okay. So this is telling you something nice, right? It is telling you that this process, right, throwing balls into bins, is like as though you are independently putting balls into bins, right? By choosing according to a different distribution, right? The Poisson distribution. Right? So this is the first statement. The next statement, what we are going to get is some way to bound the probability of. Uh, so what are we finally interested in? So we want to say, suppose you are going to throw balls into bins, and you want to analyze the various situations, like various situations regarding the distribution of the balls in the bins. And what we want to say is that to analyze that, which is basically which analyzing means that you want to say what is the probability that a particular distribution comes up, right? A particular distribution of balls into bins come up. You want to say that this can be approximated by the probability where you do it according to the Poisson case, right? And that is what is going to be formalized next, right? So this is the second theorem, right? Which is that let f be any non-negative function, right? Let f be any non-negative function then the expected value of f with x1m, x2m, and so on till xn m. This expected value is at most e times square root m times the expectation of f with y1m, y2m, and so on till yn. Correct? Right. So f is any function, any non-negative function. And what is the significance of this? How will you use it? For instance, f could be if f is an indicator function, say. Suppose f is an indicator function for these random variables to take up a particular value, right? For x1m, these xim to take certain values. Then this quantity, right, the expectation, this expectation is nothing but the probability of that event. And what you're trying, what this theorem is telling you is that this probability of the event can be upper bounded by uh, the case where balls are assigned according to the Poisson process. Right. So if, for instance, when you are actually going to apply it somewhere, what you can say, so this is a very general statement about any f. But if you want to use it in a very specific case, what you'll do is you'll take let f be any indicator function, right? For instance, it could be that, right? We'll say that, say, f of x1m, x2m, xnm. Say this function is defined as follows. It is 1 if xim is greater than 0 for every I, and it is 0 otherwise. Right? So this is like the coupon collector version, right? This is the coupon collector problem. You're saying that you have the balls and bins process where you're putting balls into the bins, but you're looking at the case when every bin has at least one ball, and you're interested in this expectation. So in this case, the expectation of f, right, is nothing but the probability that so maybe I should change it slightly, right? If to make this a little more meaningful, let me just change this, that this is, there exists an I such that xim is equal to 0. Okay, let me write it this way. So the expectation of x is the probability that there exists an empty bin, right? And this theorem is basically giving you an upper bound for this probability. And the upper bound comes by looking at f, where you're going to throw balls into the bins according to the Poisson process instead of throwing them independently and uniformly at random, right? So for what value of m will this probability be small, right? So this works when you have a small enough probability, right? In some cases, if you're going to look at a high probability event, this inequality is not going to give you anything, because this root m, this e root m might dominate, right? You want you can apply it in a suitable case when there's a small probability event such that this e times square root m does not dominate this other term, right? It's not, otherwise it might become very trivial sometimes, right? But this is some such scenario, right, where you're looking f, you define f as this indicator function, and this is a non-negative function, and then you can apply this theorem and talk about the probability that there is no empty bin. And instead of analyzing it as a balls and bins problem, you can think of it as having n bins, and you're choosing balls according to the Poisson process and putting these balls independently into the bins, right? So that is the use of this theorem. Okay. Is the theorem statement clear? we'll apply this later on in our analysis, but is the theorem statement clear? Any questions? Okay, so then let's try to prove this, right? So the proof is again, the analysis will require some approximations of various quantities and so on. So let's start with right. Let's start with this probability. Right? Probability that y1m is equal to, oh sorry, we want the expected value of f of y1m, y2m, and so on till ynm. Right, you can write this as that sum over conditional expectations, right? So because that is what we need. We have already seen that when you have conditional, when you condition on the number of balls in the bins equal to k, then you can think of it as the balls and bin scenario. So we'll write it as a conditional expectation, and from there go to the balls and bins case. Right? So this is summation over k greater than or equal to 0, right? The expected value of f of y1m so until ynm, given that, right, summation yim is equal to k times the probability that summation yim is equal to k, right, as this conditional expectation. Okay, now what do you do? So now this in particular can be written as the expected value of f of y1m and so on till ynm, given that summation yim is equal to m times the probability that the summation yim is equal to m. Okay, so this is one of the terms in the sum, and you write you have this inequality, right? And now what do you do? So now what can you say about this term here? What can you say about this term? Anything that you can say based on what you saw in the previous, uh, based on this theorem here regarding the distribution of y y1s and y1ms and x1 case? Right? What does it imply? See, if I condition on the fact that yi, yeah, it is expectation of x1 until xn, right? Because if you condition on the fact that yims is equal to m, then the previous theorem just tells you that the distribution of y1m to ynm is exactly like x1m to xnm, right? So therefore, this expectation is also going to be identical. So this is nothing but the expected value of f of x1m and so on till xnm, right? This is from the previous theorem times the probability that summation yim is equal to m. Now, what is the probability that yim is equal to m? That is e power minus. So, what is the values? It was m over n, right? So y1m was, how was it defined? We said y1m is right. It has the mu is m over n, right? So this is nothing but e raised to minus m over n times m over n raised to m divided by m factorial, right? Is that correct? Is that correct? No, no, no. Sorry, that's not correct, right? Because summation yi's is according to Poisson distribution with m, right? Because yims are m over n, so this is according to m. So this is not that. It is e raised to minus m times m raised to m by m factorial times the expected value of x1m, so on till xnm, right? Okay. So now what you do is to actually say that this can be approximated. So that part is once again. So what you can actually show is that m factorial. So this is something that is there. So this is lemma 5.8 in that book. Right? What you can show is that m factorial is at most e square root m over e raised to m. Okay? So this is again some analysis and approximations. So we will not do it in class. You can just read this. Okay? And that basically gives you the bound, right? So this with this, what you have is that if you take this value, then you get the bound, right? So this will imply, this implies the theorem, right? That expectation of f of x1m and so on till xnm is at most e square root m expectation of f y1m until yn, right? So this proof I'm not giving, so it's basically some basic analysis, some analysis that you have to do. So I leave it that. So this you can do, read it in the book. Okay. Any questions on this statement? Right? The proof is it requires some calculations and so on. After when you want to bound these binomial coefficients and so on, but apart from that, is the idea clear, right? That analysis part I have not done. I think you can read it. But is the idea clear? What the theorem conveys? Any questions on that? Okay. So then let's see an application, right? Let's see how this can be applied in a specific setting, right? So let's see one application. Let me just state it first. So this is something that I mentioned yesterday, but let me just formally state it. Okay. Suppose n balls are thrown into n bins uniformly at random, right? Let x be the random variable corresponding to the maximum load. Right? So what is maximum load? It's the this is the number of balls in the largest bin, right? What we saw yesterday was that with high probability, the maximum load is something like ln n by ln n, right? Some constant, some C ln n by ln n. That is what we saw. Right? With very high probability, the maximum load will not be much larger than some constant times ln n by ln n. What this theorem is saying is that with high probability, you will have a bin with such a load, right? So if x is the random variable corresponding to the maximum load, then the probability that x is greater than ln n by ln n, right? This probability is at least 1 minus 1 over n for large enough n. Correct? So this is like a tight bound. Not only is it the case that the largest bin will have only ln n by ln n balls, but it is also true that with high probability there will be a bin with at least ln n by ln n balls. So it's a very tight bound, that ln n by ln n. That's what this theorem is stating. Any questions on this? The statement, right? So it's the other side. It's like a lower bound compared to the previous version. Right? It says that there. It says that it's unlikely that you will have a bin with more than say 10 ln n by ln n balls, and this one says that it is very likely that you will have a bin with at least ln n by ln n balls. Okay, so let's try to prove this. Okay. Uh, so let's right. So you have the process where you are putting these balls, you're throwing the balls into the bins, right? Which is the process that you're doing, and you're going to somehow approximate it using the Poisson process, where you assume that there are you choose a bin and you put so many balls into that, right? You're going to approximate it that way. Okay. So let xi, okay, denote the number of balls in bin I. Okay, and let define this function f on x1 x2 up till xn, right, as this indicator random function, where you have it is 1 if max of x1 to xn is less than or equal to k, and it is 0 otherwise. Correct? So f is this indicator random. It's an indicator random variable, right? It is 1 if max of these values is less than k, otherwise it is 0. Correct? Now, what does what does the previous theorem say? It tells you that the expected value of f x1, x2, so on till xn, right? It is at most e times square root n expected value of f y1, y2 up till yn, right? Where yi's are Poisson random variables with parameter 1, right? What is this expectation? This expectation is the probability that x is less than or equal to k, right? This expectation is exactly the probability that x is less than or equal to k, because it is 1 precisely when the load is max load is less than k. So it's the probability that x is less than or equal to k. This is less than or equal to e times square root n of this expected value, right? The probability, maybe I'll write y, right? What does this say? What is this quantity saying? Suppose I put balls according to the probability that all bins have load less than or equal to k, according to the when balls are put according to the Poisson process. Right? I don't need to worry about how many balls go where, what is the total number of balls and everything. I just need this inequality. Right? This inequality just tells you that if I want to bound this quantity, it is sufficient to study this other quantity, which is that the probability that y is less than or equal to k, where y is measuring what is the maximum load. When I do the following process, I take a bin I choose a number according to the Poisson one, and I put so many balls into it. If I do this independently for every all the n bins, what is the probability that every bin has less than or equal to k balls? If I can bound that, then that also bounds the probability that when I throw balls into bins, the maximum load is less than or equal to k. It directly follows from what we wrote before. Right? Is it clear? Is the statement is the idea clear? Right? This is one application of what we just saw before. Any questions here? So I noticed that it has become very easy to analyze because these throwing balls into bins is now can be handled independently for the different bins, right? So what is the probability that yi is less than or equal to k? What is this probability?
Like e power minus n by n into summation.
Yeah, okay.
Some
So let's again, so what you're saying is the correct form, right? To doing all the summation, everything. So I mean, the thing is that you need an upper bound, right? So in many cases, this is something that I think you will get used to when you do this, right? You don't really need the correct value all the time. Mostly you want to say that something is small. So what you do is you try to approximate it. You try different approximations. You just need to show that something is small. You don't really care about the exact value in many cases, right? Unless you're doing a very, very tight analysis. You just need to say something which is an inequality, right? Some upper bound. Right? So what you're saying is I think you're doing the summation over all the case and one minus that and so on. We will be much more uh, loose in our bounds, right? We'll just say that this is at most 1 minus the probability that yi is equal to k. Surely, right? This is sufficient, right? And what is this? This is 1 minus. So yi is a Poisson random variable. So yi is distributed as a Poisson random variable with parameter 1. So this is e power minus 1. 1 power k by k factorial. So this is 1 by e k factorial, right? And therefore, the probability that y less than or equal to k is the probability that each of the yi's is less than or equal to k, right? Every yi should be less than or equal to k because y is the maximum, right? So this is, and what is interesting, what is useful is that the yi's are all independent now, right? Because the way in which you're assigning balls to bins. So this is at most 1 minus 1 over e times k factorial, the whole power n, right? So what you actually want to show is that what you want to now show is that probability that x is less than or equal to k is less than or equal to e times square root n times 1 minus 1 over e into k factorial raised power n, right? And what you want to show, so you want to basically at this point, right, at this point what you want to do is to choose k such that e square root n 1 minus 1 over e times k factorial, the whole power n is less than 1 over n. Right? This is what you want to do. Because if this happens, then this quantity is also less than 1 over n. And this is the probability. This is the probability that max load is less than or equal to k. Right? So you need to find a value of k such that this happens. And I think I'm almost out of time, but what you can do is, again, you can see that when choosing k to be equal to ln n by ln n, this is true, right? By taking sufficient number of you take logarithm and then simplify this, you will find this inequality, right? So that part is, again, I'm a little out of time. I think I'll just leave that, but that is not very hard to do, right? That's just substituting for this value and then showing that this inequality indeed holds, right? So somehow, instead of analyzing, right, so the nice thing is that instead of analyzing this probability here, we analyze something completely different, right? We analyze the case where you are putting balls into bins independently according to a Poisson distribution, and we said that that analysis is sufficient to upper bound the probability of the event that the max load is less than or equal to k. Right? So notice that it works because this probability is small enough, right? It was small enough so that it will dominate this term, right? You don't want to, if you're going to take an event which is a high probability event, then it is unlikely that this will give you any good bound, because the e times square root n will basically kill anything that you want, right? You will get something greater than 1. For instance, if you say that probability of x is less than or equal to k is less than some value that is greater than 1, then that is obvious, right? It is not, this inequality will not give you anything. It is useful only when you're trying to bound these low probability events, right? In which case this inequality will work very well. And in this case, it is also true, right? So I think we will stop now. I think we are almost out of time. We'll stop now. We'll see one more application of this Poisson approximation when we analyze the coupon collector problem once more. Okay. So that is for Monday. Okay, so we'll stop now. Any questions regarding today's class? Okay. Any other questions? Anything related to the course that you want to discuss? Anything else? Okay. So in that case, I think we are done for this week. So we'll meet on Monday, right? The usual slot. Thank you.